Good evening and welcome to the Business Day. I'm Andrea Chisholm. The Bank of Jamaica's Monetary Policy Committee has decided to increase the cash reserve requirement applicable to deposit-taking institutions. The committee has also decided to maintain the policy interest rate at 7%. Javon Keys reports.
Effective the 1st of April, 1 percentage point will be added to the domestic and the foreign currency cash reserve requirements at the Bank of Jamaica. Currently, deposit-taking institutions are required to hold a minimum of 5% of their Jamaican dollar-denominated prescribed liabilities and 13% of their foreign currency-denominated prescribed liabilities as cash reserves at the central bank. These prescribed liabilities include the value of deposits, funds borrowed from other institutions, and the interest on these debts. Since 2019, the domestic currency cash reserve requirement had been reduced progressively from 12% at the start of 2019 to 5%. This was in the context of what the BOJ described as an extended period of low and stable inflation. The committee says the additional liquidity control measure is another tool it expects will help slow inflation. Meanwhile, the Bank of Jamaica's Monetary Policy Committee has held the policy interest rate at 7%. The MPC decided to maintain the rate offered to deposit-taking institutions on overnight placements as it says the inflation outlook remains generally favorable. Risks to inflation, however, remain high. The cost of goods increased by 8.1% for the 12 months up to January this year, representing a downward trend. The BOJ says core inflation, which excludes food and fuel prices, fell to 7.1% in January 2023. The MPC says the pace of monetary tightening by the United States' Federal Reserve Board, the Fed, also appears to be slowing, which has factored into the local monetary policy decision. The committee says its projections are in line with the global consensus that commodity prices will fall. It says with no new shocks, inflation is projected to continue falling this year, reaching the 4 to 6% target range by the December 2023 quarter. The Monetary Policy Committee says the next decision, which is due on March 29, will depend on inflation conditions as the committee is seeing more international commodity price reductions coming into domestic prices. It says the Fed continuing to slow its policy rate increases will also be factored. For the Business Day, I'm Javon Keys.
Jamaica is close to its highest spend on imports since 2011. Statin is reporting that $6.4 billion was spent on goods coming into the country for the first 10 months of last year. That figure already exceeds the sum spent on imports for all years leading up to 2022, except 2019. In 2019, $6.4 billion was also spent on imports. For all of 2021, $5.9 billion was spent on goods coming in. The $6.4 billion spent for January to October 2022 represents a 33% uptick compared with the $4.8 billion spent for the similar period in 2021. Statin says this increase was mainly due to the higher costs associated with the importation of gas and gas products, raw materials and intermediate goods, and consumer goods. For the month of October alone, $591.6 million was spent on imports versus $558.6 million in October 2021. Global inflation has been influencing the cost of goods and services being imported. The US dollar is being sold for an average $155.25. $115.42 is the going rate for the Canadian dollar. The average selling rate for the pound is $184.73, while the euro is going for $167.90. The JSE index advanced by 2,288 points today, while the junior market index gained 4 points. Among the winners, Jamaica Public Service 7%, Cargo Handlers, Kingston Properties, Iron Rock Insurance, and JMMB Group 7.25% VRCR preference shares. The losers were led by Margaritaville Turks, Epley 7.5% preference shares due 2024, Cygnus Credit Investments US dollar shares, Sterling Investments, and JMMB Group 7.15% CR preference shares. And that's it for the Business Day. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Good evening.